Welcome to Happy Hour Conversations podcast, where we normalize hard, emotional, and raw conversations, such as grief, infertility, mental health, menopause, and all other sister-friend talks, sprinkled with a lot of laughter for the soul. We encourage our community to focus on areas of growth, becoming a better version of self each day, and exercising in faith over fear. As we redefine ourselves as life shifts and we rearrange the puzzle pieces. I am your girl, Tamekia R. Moon, and in this first season, we are focusing on grief, a journey that we will experience but rarely discuss and normalize our feelings. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on IG at Happy Hour Conversations Podcast. Before we jump into the episode, let me share this week's affirmation. I will not give up on me. Life may seem rocky and hard at times, but I will not give up on me. I am deserving of love, wealth, and an abundance of wisdom. Therefore, I am forever a student. I will not give up on me. I will not give up on me. I will not give up on me. Let's jump into the episode. Welcome to Happy Hour Conversations. I'm your girl, Tamekia R. Moon, and today I am solo dolo. I don't know if people still say solo dolo, but I'm saying it. Do people still say it? Anyway, I guess I'm dating myself. I don't know. Still sounds good. If people don't say it, I'm saying it. I don't care. And y'all see my sweatshirt? I'm about to be 45, and the entire month of November is my birthday, and they're about to be sick of me. So anyway, welcome to Happy Hour Conversations. My overall goal is to normalize the pain of grief and create comfortable spaces for people to show up and give themselves permission to talk about their journey and the pain that they're going through while dealing with grief. And so today we're going to talk about some healthy tips as we deal with grief and the grief journey. Excuse me. Grief is the response that our body goes through, right? It automatically goes through something when we have lost someone. It can be by death or the loss of someone by way of losing, right? And I have shared my story in previous episodes, so I'm gonna do a really quick, a quick snippet of the journey that I am going through. May 17th of 2019, I lost my mom, physically lost my mom. And right now, I'm also grieving my dad. My dad is physically still here on earth, but he's not the man that I grew up with. So I am grieving losing the father that I knew, right? That I grew up with, because he's ill. And having to deal with this has been really hard to manage. It's been hard to process, and it's been really, really hard to accept. Like, yeah, I'm about to be 45, and the thought of not having parents, or having at least one parent here physically, but not being able to reach out to your parent is hard. I don't know another word to use, but it has been very, very hard. And so I share more of the story of both my mom and my dad in episodes 1 through 7 of the podcast, which is on both Spotify and Google Podcasts. So make sure you check out the episodes. Make sure you subscribe. And I share more of the stories there. But we're going to go ahead and jump into healthy tips. But before we do, I want to make sure that I say this. When dealing with grief, the one thing that we have to do is acknowledge our grief. I think sometimes we get so caught up in either being busy or making sure others are okay, or maybe simply ignoring the pain, that we don't acknowledge our grief. So I want to make sure before we even jump into anything else is that the one important step here is acknowledging your grief. And with that, we also have to back up from telling ourselves and telling other people that we're okay. We have to stop saying, I'm okay, I'll be all right, I'm strong, and, stop jumping back into what was normal, because life, the puzzle, it has completely shifted. So that normal is not normal anymore. And so you're trying to put yourself back into a piece that doesn't necessarily fit. And I think that creates a dark hole that we can go down. Not think, it does. It creates a dark hole, a path that we go down, and we spiral into this dark hole because we're trying to operate in a space that no longer exists, that used to be normal. And the second thing I think we also need to do when acknowledging the pain or grief is also embrace the pain, right? So acknowledging your grief and embrace the pain. The third thing is accept that your normal is no longer fitting into that puzzle piece. And so we have to give ourselves permission to say, you know what? It's okay that this puzzle piece is missing a piece now. And now I have to recreate my puzzle. It shifted. And now I got to find a piece to put back there, right? So that means you got to recreate some things in order to manage and function in this grief journey. And the fourth thing I would say is seek therapy, right? So before we get into healthy tips, the four things as relates to grief is accepting your grief, embrace the pain, accept that your normal is no longer normal, and that it's all right to recreate puzzle pieces that fit in the puzzle that's now. And seek therapy. Now, when I say seek therapy, you will have to go through I will say a process to find a therapist that's fitting for you, right? So when you pick a therapist, you want to make sure you interview with therapists, and you want to make sure the fit is right. And you may have to go through 1, 2, 3, and 4, or 5 therapists before you be like, you know what? You're the one. You're the one to help me. We vibe, we rolling. I like you. Like going through having a therapist is a big deal. The right therapist is a big deal. It's like having the right relationship, right? So I want to make sure that I preference that, because I think sometimes people are hesitant about therapy. One, because we don't talk about therapy. I was in therapy before my mom transitioned. So I want to make sure I share that. Life was challenging back in 2000, I think it was like 13, 14. And I was like, you know what? I need help. And so I went to therapy then. And so when my mom passed, I had gotten therapy again. And to be quite honest with y'all, sometimes I feel like I need to be back in therapy. And I probably will get back in therapy. Anyway, that's my little rant. So tips, right? When going through grief, I want you, make sure you all take pen and paper. Grab pen and paper and write these tips down. And if you have some tips, make sure you drop them in the comments, right? But one tip I will say is you have to give yourself grace when you are going through the grief process. And grace for me looks like this. It's honoring how you feel, honoring the space and the process that you'll go through. And it's being free in the abundance of love that you give to yourself. Okay? So that's one tip, is grace. Give yourself grace. The second tip is compassion. Find the space to give yourself compassion, meaning be kind to yourself. You have to be still enough to listen to the higher spirit within you when we are going through grief. You need to be able to forgive yourself. Be able to forgive yourself whenever needed and for whatever it is that you need to forgive yourself for, right? Live with no regrets. And when it comes to it, encourage yourself. And sometimes to encourage yourself, you may have to journal, you may have to write some things down, whether it be affirmations. You may have to listen to an affirmation podcast, watch some affirmations on YouTube, or simply write a letter to yourself. That's what compassion looks like to me. I think we are harder on ourselves when we are going through things. And so in order to create a healthy outlook, we have to just take healthy approaches, right? The third tip I would say is, this is the time to focus on yourself and your immediate family. Sometimes you have to shut other people out, or just shut other things down in order to navigate this process. So focusing on yourself, whatever that looks like for you and your family, then do that. For me, it was really about, I would say, getting in tune with myself, being forgiving to myself, honestly, putting me first. It has been a ride, but putting me first, right? Because in my life experience, I've always put others before me. So focus on myself and my immediate family for me has really been about putting me first, and then also investing in my immediate family where I can, and also helping them navigate some things when I can and when I have the space. The other thing I would say is create a space in activities that helps you through this process. Creating space and activities that help you through the process. I can tell you what I've done. And then again, if somebody has someone they want to share, please drop it in the comments. But creating space for me has looked like creating a room where I can just go and just sit and center my thoughts, and just disconnect, right? So I'll make sure I'll have my phone turned off or on do not disturb. Nobody comes in that space that I've created for myself. And I just disconnect and I get in tune with myself in that particular space. In activities, I've journal. I have a journal. So I have a journal that's just dedicated to my mom. And then I have a journal that I journal maybe my dreams or just my everyday thoughts, and just things that I may be going through. Excuse me. Maybe even writing letters to yourself. I think it was, let's see, it wasn't this year, but last year. I always try to find something that honors my mom, right? Especially around her birthday. her birthday season. So this year we did a whole birthday celebration. So we created like a memory table. I told people to bring pictures, put up balloons, and we just had a good time. It was like a birthday party. We had food, birthday cake, family came, and then during, family time, people got to share their favorite memory about my mom. So that was an activity that was helpful for me, but I also realized it was helpful for my family as well. Years prior, I think I did a 65-page journal message to my mom, right? And why I was so thankful to have her as a mother. So you have to find things that works for you to help you get through this process. And sometimes even writing a letter to the person that you miss, right? Because journaling is one thing, but writing a letter and actually putting it in the envelope, like that's something totally different. You can also do like write your favorite memories, or you could do something in honor of their name, right? So doing something in honor of their name is you may participate in a walk, a run, donate something in their name, a scholarship, donate books with this in their name, or do a project in honor of their name. So you have to find something that is meaningful to you, that might have been meaningful to them, connect the two, that makes it work to help you navigate in this journey. Excuse me. The other thing I would say, this is tip number, let's see, tip number 5. Tip number 5 is release yourself from the pressure of having to show up. Okay? Release yourself from the pressure of having to show up. Always show up for other people, events, activities, and always being turned on, right? Because things have changed, right? So the old you may not be able to do those same things. And so release yourself from that. Release yourself from having to give somebody excuses of why you cannot show up or why you can't do a certain thing. You can't do it. You don't have it. And if you feel the need to say anything, you can say to yourself or to whomever you feel the need to say something to, I am not emotionally available. And it's okay to say that. Because when you're not emotionally available, you're not emotionally available. Or you can say, I do not have the mental capacity. We have to start normalizing when we are in a space of being empty. Trying to be empty. Well, not trying when we're empty, but trying to pour into others when we are totally dry. We don't eat. I mean, we done, right? We flatlined. We have to get to a space to be okay with that, but also verbalize it. Now, whether the other person accepts it or not, that's not your concern. Your concern is being able to verbalize it and accept it and work on you. The next tip I would say is create boundaries. Creating boundaries could be a number of things depending on your life situation and what's going on in your life, right? Creating boundaries may be something as simple as I am no longer going to let you take advantage of me. I am no longer going to be your yes person. What does boundaries or creating boundaries look like for you? Because I know what they look like for me, but what do they look like for you? whatever they look like for you and in your life, start putting those in place, right? Because when you don't set boundaries, people will continue and continue and continue and continue to uh, disrupt your space. And last but not least, create healthy outlets. I realize we are the generation that can do things a lot more differently than our parents, right? So our parents, those are the baby boomers. We are, well, I'll say me. I won't say we, I'll say me. So when I say we, I'm talking about Generation X. So we got the baby boomers who did not talk about much of anything that I can remember. I don't remember my mom, my dad, my aunts. I don't remember any of them talking about the things that they went through as it relates to losing somebody, or the things they went through as it relates to just dealing with some type of pain, right? In the grief process. I just remember them just kind of just pushing through. But I also can remember, now that I'm older and looking back, I'm like, oh wait, that was signs of depression. That was signs of I'm dealing with something and I don't know how to deal with it in a healthy way. So I'm going to deal with it in this particular way, right? I'm gonna overeat and overeat and overeat. We call it comfort food. So when I look back, I'm like, yeah, they were dealing with some things, but they never talked about it. So I feel like the my generation is a generation to change things. We are the generation that can be like, okay, I'm dealing with this, and even if I don't want to talk about it, I can go and exercise, right? So creating healthy outlets looks like this: going to exercise, whether that be you get a membership at the gym, whether that be you go exercise outside your home, in the front yard, back patio, inside your home, whether you create a little space. Remember, I talked about that space before that's just for you. Whether you create a little home gym, you work out, you watch something on YouTube, you work out. That is a healthy outlet, right? Eating healthier is a healthy outlet. Picking better food choices. Juicing, for me, I have found juice to actually be. I just started juicing. I guess we 3 months in now, maybe 3 months, 4 months. Yeah, 3 or 4 months, and I have found it to be very helpful for me as a habit of dealing with this process. The other thing you can also do, which I do, is listen to mindful music. So mindful music, it looks like, going, like, I go to YouTube, right? But you can pick something that's literally just instrumental, the sounds of high vibration that soothes your mind, your body, and calm you down. Um, that's a healthy outlet that helps you kind of navigate, because it puts you in the body at peace, right? Um, so those are the tips that I wanted to share as it relates to finding healthy tips as we deal with grief in a healthy way. And you know what? I'll add this too. When you want to talk about grief, like, finding a therapist is one thing. Talking about your grief outside your therapist is another thing. And so when you go to find that group of people that you want to talk to, because I feel like that's another part of releasing the grief. You have to find like people in groups, right? That understand exactly what you're going through. Talking to somebody that has not lost anybody significantly, that where they understand, they won't understand. They will not understand. And so it in my experience, it will not be helpful. And so that's the other tip I would add is talking about it. Not just with your therapist. Well, I'll say outside of your therapist. Outside of your therapist, when you want to talk about your grief and what you're going through, you want to make sure you find like-minded people that share that same experience, because they may be able to give you, some helpful tools, some resources that they've used to help navigate. But if nothing else, they will definitely be able to understand. And that's what you want. You want somebody that's able to understand, which is why they'll be able to give you tools and resources that they have applied, that has gotten them through their journey, right? So those are my healthy tips as it relates to dealing with grief. And so we're just gonna do a really quick recap, right? So before I gave the tips, I said these are the things you need to do as you accepting your grief, which is, one, you have to acknowledge your grief. 2, embrace the pain. 3, accept that normal is no longer normal. And it's okay to recreate the new puzzle piece that fits in the now. 4 is seek therapy. Now remember, I said, therapy is like interviewing people. You got to find that right match for you. But once you find that right match, I promise you, it is definitely beneficial. I believe God created all people to help people. So we are here as one to help each other in different spaces. In this space, we're talking about grief. The tips that I gave is give yourself grace. Make sure you go back and listen to the whole thing, because I elaborate a lot more. But give yourself grace, compassion, focus on yourself and your family, immediate family. Create a space and activities that will help you through the process. Release yourself from the pressure of always having to show up and always being turned on. Create boundaries and healthy outlets as you are dealing with grief. I am thankful to be able to sit in this space and share my journey, share light on it, and open doors for other people. This is going to be a movement. I stand on it and I claim it, because I want people to be able to be healthier. I want people to be able to be healthier minded, healthier physically, mentally, and emotionally. I am your girl, Tamekia R. Moon, and thank you for joining us here on Happy Hour Conversations, and I'll catch you all later. Thank you for joining the Happy Hour Conversations podcast, where we discuss heavy, emotional, and raw conversations sprinkled with laughter. Be sure to follow us on IG at Happy Hour Conversations Podcast, and also subscribe to the podcast to stay tuned to our weekly Happy Hour Conversations. I am your girl, Tamekia R. Moon, and I'll see you next week.